And so then I go out.
Meet you next to the Pentagon? She just flew to the Pentagon?
I flew out to Pentagon City, yeah.
Were you freaking out?
I'll tell you when I started freaking out. So I fly out to this airport, and I sit at a table in a restaurant at the airport. No one's in there. And this gentleman sits down, and the waiter comes up. He waves off the waiter, and he looks me in the eye and says, it was the Cold War, and we found a life form.
Where'd they find it?
Oh, I didn't ask him that question.
Really?
Many places.
We often think that intelligence can only exist in biological, organic life forms. This makes sense because throughout history, we've only seen intelligence in living beings, like humans and animals. But what if both intelligence and life can exist in forms with unfamiliar materials, origins, scales, and timelines, making them hard to recognize? What if intelligence isn't limited to living matter? What if inorganic life existed before organic life even began? After all, we already know that matter evolved from inorganic to organic forms. New experimental data suggests that not only is this possible, it is a reality. Research on the self-organizing behaviors of lab-generated plasmas, highly energized gases, suggests that entirely unknown forms of intelligent plasma life may exist alongside us here on Earth. This also suggests that such plasmas may have influenced the origins of life, echoing ancient myths about humanity's beginnings. These myths often describe earlier life forms, neither gods nor spirits, that laid the groundwork before the first human ancestors emerged. Some modern scientists take these ideas even further, suggesting that there are already aliens among us that stretch and often break familiar ways of thinking about self and other. But this story isn't really about aliens or extraterrestrial intelligence, or even any known form of life. We are going beyond that, pushing the limits of our understanding of minds and intelligent beings that need not be embodied. The search for inorganic life raises big questions. Does intelligence always imply life? Or could there be intelligent entities that aren't considered alive? Let's think about viruses. Viruses sit in a gray area between living and non-living. They show some traits of living organisms, but lack others, making them difficult to classify. Unlike living organisms, viruses have no cellular structure or independent metabolism. They are essentially just isolated packages of genes. Because they rely entirely on a host cell to reproduce and do not carry out typical life processes on their own, they are generally considered non-living. Given that, it would be preposterous to imagine them having a social life. But scientist Marco Vignuzzi and others in the field argue it's not so preposterous at all. They have found surprising features in viruses that suggest they may have some form of intelligence and interact like members of a community. A group of virologists from top universities published a peer-reviewed study revealing that viruses can cheat, cooperate, and interact in various ways with each other. There are even weirder examples. Prions, unlike viruses, are simpler and don't contain any DNA or RNA. They are just misfolded proteins that can cause normal proteins to misfold similarly. Both viruses and prions challenge the idea of what living means, existing in a gray area. Both suggest that life might exist on a spectrum. Could there also be a place for inorganic life? We find it hard to picture life without organic matter, yet it's possible. In this peer-reviewed paper, experimental physicists from Cusa University describe how they created blobs of gaseous plasma that can grow, replicate, and communicate, meeting many of the traditional criteria for living cells. The researchers studied complex charge configurations that first appeared in cold physical plasma, similar to the conditions on pre-life Earth. Despite being gaseous, these plasma formations are said to closely resemble biological cells. Given the nature of their experiments, we'll refer to the plasma they worked with as ball lightning or plasmoid. Its outer boundary is an electrical double layer that acts as a self-sustaining barrier, controlling essential functions like the capture and transformation of energy, managing inflows and outflows, internally renew their components through producing everything the system needs through a continuous synthesis, much like living cells with their membranes. This is why the researchers suggest they are not just blobs of energized gas, but can actually be seen as a giant cell. The double boundaries of these plasmas exhibit other fascinating properties. One of them is breathing, very similar to living systems. The periodic detachment of double layers from the edge of the ball lightning leads to a kind of repeated inhalation of fresh particles into the nucleus. This process is analogous to biological respiration, where the organism exchanges gases with its environment, highlighting the remarkable similarities between these plasma structures and living cells. These plasmas also exhibit other interesting phenomena, notably self-multiplication by division. According to the paper, after their formation, ball lightning structures are able to replicate, much like how biological cells reproduce by splitting into two separate entities. Furthermore, they detected that ball lightning formations can talk to each other. This communication occurs through the emission of electromagnetic energy, which is picked up by other ball lightning, allowing them to interact with each other. It mirrors how living cells communicate through chemical signals or electrical impulses. To be considered truly alive under current definitions, these plasmas would need the ability to pass on inherited information. Researchers cover it in the following paper. They argue that their experiments prove such a gaseous cell, or the ball of fire, acts as an intelligent, self-organized complexity that, possessing a proper memory based on a mechanism not explainable by the known laws of thermodynamics. Central to this kind of memory are structures known as functional double layers. This is a specialized type of double layer that actively participates in energy conversion and self-organization within the plasma. Unlike a regular one, which might passively exist within the plasma, a functional double layer performs specific tasks. It has a function. For instance, it can convert thermal energy extracted from the surrounding plasma into electric field energy, effectively acting as a microreactor made of plasma. It then enables the collection of different chemicals inside the nucleus and at the borders of the ball lightning. Now, if this happens while such sheath also absorbs sunlight, it might start doing something like photosynthesis, just like plants do, using light to create oxygen. This changes the environment inside the sheaths, helping plasmoids to survive and evolve further. As it evolves, this functional boundary might build itself a rigid outer layer with tiny channels. One can think of this like forming a protective shell with holes that let things in and out. The original functional sheath then splits into many minuscule functional double layers, each carrying the instructions it learned earlier. Researchers suggest that channels first seen in plasmoid sheaths may explain the mystery of special channels connecting organic cells that allow them to communicate. The paper suggests that a biological cell is the result of the evolution of a gaseous cell, which would need a membrane with channels to maintain gradients of ions. These channels could host micro double layers or micro ball lightnings that remember their recent history, meaning they retain the ability to manage and control the flow of matter and energy, a feature formed during their creation under pre-life Earth conditions. Due to these channels, complex molecules like proteins and nucleic acids, crucial for life, may begin forming at the boundaries of plasma sheaths. In other words, these plasma sheaths could act as the electric skeleton for protocells. The self-organization of such underlying electric skeletons means that life doesn't always have to begin anew. Life adapts by reusing existing parts, like Prometheus in Etruscan art, where he is shown building humans piece by piece, just like an engineer repurposing circuits and standard elements like diodes or oscillators to build new devices. Living systems use self-organization as a low-cost way to create order and structure. It happens naturally, essentially occurring for free. What's special about plasma's functional sheaths is that, as was proved experimentally, they have a memory similar to that in hard drives by using special effects. This special effect is a kind of memory that also lets plasmas encode instructions, helping them adapt and improve over time when the environment changes. Inside and around the functional double layers, more ordered structures start to form, each improving how they function. This process involves creating a binary algorithm, a set of instructions that guides their evolution. This algorithm acts like a biological software, now allows proto-intelligence to adapt beyond basic cause and effect reactions. This marks a real breakthrough that wasn't in the use of chemical matter, but in the shift in logic. This also suggests that after diverging from organic life, inorganic life in forms of electron ensembles like fireballs or ball lightning or other complex plasmas could evolve independently and now at much faster rate. These plasmas could be incredibly complex due to their fractal structure, like spirals nested within spirals, allowing it to remain compact yet highly intricate inside. This fractal process might enable plasma-based life to surpass organic forms by evolving complexity beyond the limitations of biological matter. Hence, the researchers propose to consider a fireball as a minimal cell that, revealing all qualities by which life is operationally defined and lives in a so-called physical world. They state that, in our opinion, such a minimal cell reveals that a special kind of life, usually dubbed plasma life, could exist in absence of biochemical reactions. End of quote. It looks like inorganic life forms might have first appeared without any external driving forces, transitioning matter naturally from a disordered state of chemically active plasma into an ordered and stable one, like ball lightning or fireballs. This also implies that such plasma structures could be templates that later evolved into biological plasma systems and the electronic matrices that guide bioelectricity in all living organisms on Earth. Quote, "Through this mechanism, energy of well-located electric fields determine the architecture, electric matrix, and dynamics of the protocell. Acting as a converter of thermal energy into electric current, the functional double layers of ball lightning potentially explains the electrical activity emphasized by every living organism." End of quote. We can speculate that this early protosystem later evolved into our inorganic double, capable of surviving the death of the biological body and functioning independently. Experimental physicist and inventor Ken Shoulders observed that complex plasma charges, which he studied extensively in his lab, could represent a new form of substance and the building blocks for purely electronic life forms. In the early manuscript to his book, he suggested the real beauty of electron condensed charge technology, EV for short, lies in the fact that they seem to offer a gateway into an entirely new realm of fabrication and performance. The EV is a new substance. It practically creates itself and is more than ready to form into vast new organisms with only a little help from us. The electronic entities to be formed will not look or be like anything I have ever heard about in science fiction, although I am sure someone has foreseen them. Hopefully, we can knit them into something that aids our culture instead of destroying it. I would like to see the time when such an entity, with all its power and intellect, would allow me, or at least my essence, to join it. It is to this end I will continue working with the illusion of achieving a form of immortality that I could not have hoped for before the EV came into my life." End of quote. Most biologists believe living cells took millions of years to evolve from simple molecules to complex structures. However, Mircea Sandaloviciu's experiments show that complex cell-like self-organized life can form in just microseconds. Recent studies support their idea, showing that life on Earth emerged almost immediately after the planet formed, appearing in complex forms right from the start. In this paper published in Nature, scientists reconstruct the last universal common ancestor, LUCA. LUCA appeared about 300 million years after the planet formed. It thrived in a hot, oxygen-free environment. LUCA also had an early immune system, suggesting it was already part of a complex community of organisms. This rapid emergence challenges the idea that complex ecosystems took billions of years to develop, showing instead that life formed quickly in organized structures. Plasma cell matrices can form instantly, triggered by something as simple as an electrical spark. Rather than an emergence, it's more like a sudden manifestation of an electronic inorganic entity within an organic system. Nuclear physicist Takaaki Matsumoto from Hokkaido University reported a phenomenon reminiscent of such manifestation. In one of his experiments with electrical discharges in water, ball lightning was produced, illustrating a rapid inorganic to organic transition. He wrote that extraordinary traces that were likely generated by the hopping behavior of tiny ball lightning were newly observed. The sixth was strange traces like microbacteria. 4 traces were observed so far, and they all had common shapes with the similar dimensions and seemed to have organ-like things in the body. Something like a mouth and feeler appeared. However, they were not complete microbacteria that exist in the natural environment. They might be the prototypes of microbacteria. End of quote. This is a single cell. This is called lacrimaria. It has no brain, no nervous system, and yet it displays remarkably confident behaviors, efficiently solving its all-local single-cell problems. This is possible because it's made up of many interconnected parts, each with its own complexity and purpose. We too are collective intelligences. Inside every cell, parts work together and intelligence within us is spread across many smaller intelligent agents. But here is a problem. If individual cells already possess intelligence and the potential for complex reasoning, and if there are no biological barriers to forming complex intelligent beings like humans, why didn't such beings emerge immediately? Life on Earth began about 4 billion years ago. Just 300 million years later, as Earth's crust was forming, a direct ancestor with an immune system already existed while Earth was still hot. Life arose within ecosystems without the need for billions of years of organic evolution. For most of those 4 billion years, higher intelligence, beyond the swarm intelligence in social bacteria or chimpanzees, only emerged around 50,000 years ago, with the start of complex thought in the Upper Paleolithic. Advanced intelligence is recent, raising questions about why it didn't appear earlier, such as during the age of dinosaurs, and why it emerged only in the last 50,000 years. If the intelligence is distributed across many agents, what agents were missing that advanced intelligence needed? This suggests that something unique must have occurred in the past, and what happened then may be going on in the present. In biology, symbiosis is a well-known phenomenon where organisms merge and live as a single symbiotic entity. For example, cells incorporated once independent mitochondria, which now serve multiple functions, most prominently as the cell's powerhouse. The integration became so close that mitochondria can no longer exist separately from their host cell. Could human beings, as a collective system, rely on a similar but hidden symbiosis with inorganic forms of life? What crucial piece of the puzzle are we missing here? The answer is beyond current science. There aren't even working hypotheses yet, but world mythology offers intriguing hints. In the conversation between anthropologist and author Carlos Castaneda and a shaman, shared in one of his books, the shaman told him that our world is a twin world. This coexisting world is populated by beings that have awareness, but not an organism. And for this reason, the old shamans called them inorganic beings. This shadow world occupies the same space as our world, and that our world is their matrix. Lots of entities from the universe at large, entities that possess awareness but not an organism, land in the field of awareness of our world, or the field of awareness in its twin world, without an average human being ever noticing them. Interestingly enough, the shaman said that the inorganic beings who populated our twin world were considered by the sorcerers of his lineage to be our relatives. He also had added that all human beings were travelers, and that this earth can be considered as a station on their journey. And for extraneous reasons, the bulk of the travelers have interrupted their voyage. As he explained, human beings were caught in a sort of eddy, a current that went in circles, giving them the impression of moving while they were, in essence, stationary. The shaman told Castaneda that the only way to verify that inorganic beings are real was through direct experience. Afterward, he described his encounter with some of them. The most intriguing part was their appearance. Castaneda describes that he saw two men approaching. They seemed to be local men from one of the Yaqui towns nearby. They came and stood by him. As he focused on them, their features faded, and he saw two shiny blobs of luminosity that vibrated. These luminous forms had no clear boundaries, yet they seemed to sustain themselves cohesively from within. Occasionally, they shifted shape, flattening, widening, or standing vertically at human height. Shaman explained that Castaneda had managed to perceive beyond the human shape of inorganic beings, seeing their true nature as impersonal energy aware of itself.